Hey, you ready to do the video? Here we go. I'd swear, if you walk past this tank any time of the day, you'd think I never fed them. Anyways, hey guys, welcome to the video. My name is Ryan Styles Harris, and in this video today, we are going to talk about that thing right back there. Title of the video, Stadium Trucks Are More Fun Than Buggies, Change My Mind. I wholeheartedly believe that when it comes to your club racing scenarios and anyone that's starting out in RC. So let's talk about it. So there's a little inside look at the truck that we're going to be talking about today. What truck is it? If you don't know, it is a Team Associated T6.1. Now, what may surprise you, as it surprised me, is I don't really ever change the setup of this truck too much. That's what I like about stadium trucks. There's a lot of things about them that just makes them easier to drive, and I think that that's going to be helpful for newcomers to the hobby or people that just really don't want to wrench too much on their stuff or worry about setup or getting everything absolutely perfect just so that you can drive it. Now, I love two-wheel drive buggies and four-wheel drive buggies as much as the next guy. Particularly, I'm contrasting the two-wheel drive buggy platform to the two-wheel drive stadium truck. A two-wheel drive buggy is kind of like the real test of your driving abilities. If you get your setup right and your tires right, you're gonna have fun and it's gonna go fast. But if you don't get those things close to perfect, it's really not that fun and you can be really far off pace. This is where I see stadium trucks kind of filling in this gap of kind of difficulty, learning how to set stuff up and get everything absolutely perfect, but still being able to be competitive and have fun. I think that the first place to start when you're talking about these things is going to be tires. Now here's a double D for a two-wheel drive buggy, and this is a double D for a stadium truck. Now if you look at them, you can see that there is a natural size difference. This is where a lot of the ability to find grip easier in a stadium truck, in my opinion, is going to come into play. Just the footprint alone of a stadium truck tire is significantly larger than a two-wheel drive buggy. That means that this is going to be able to just grab more surface area and find more grip. All of the big indoor races I did last year and a lot of the outdoor races that I've done this year, I always found my stadium truck to just work. I would send it out for a run of practice. It was good. I would just get the tires reasonably close and set the right height and just go. With a two-wheel drive buggy, you're always chasing grip and setup and a lot of other things that can be very frustrating if you don't know what they are. So when it comes to recommending something to a newcomer, if there is a stadium truck class, I will probably suggest that they grab a stadium truck before they grab a two-wheel drive buggy.
First race up is going to be stock buggy, UK, Vince, Brian's up again, Brian Miller and Iggy.
Now, as for my truck in particular, what setup do I have? It's going to be the Dustin Evans setup that I've linked down below. This setup is very neutral, very easy to drive. It doesn't do anything bizarre or require any special driving skills. If you look at the setup and you want to make any tweaks to it, I remember talking with Dustin sometime last year about this setup, and he said that it's pretty much what he runs everywhere he goes. He will either play with sway bars or no sway bar at all up in the front, depending on how much steering he wants, stiff sway bar, and then on the opposite end of the spectrum, take it completely out if you need a little bit more steering. Things that I have personally changed going from track to track, from indoor super high bite to outdoor low bite conditions, would be I leave the springs the same, I leave the shock oil the same, I leave the pistons the same. The only thing I'll change is the hub heights or the axle heights up front. Just flipping those caster hats around or the insert, drop them all the way down to the lowest position for the maximum amount of grip, and slide them to the highest location if you have traction rolling issues and super high bite conditions. The other thing that you're gonna probably do at the same time if you're making those adjustments is very simply the battery. Move it all the way forward if you have lots and lots of traction to get a little bit more steering out of the truck, or if it's low bite condition, move the battery all the way back against the waterfall, giving you a little bit more grip, having that weight towards the rear tires. So something that's kind of fun that you guys saw in the beginning of the video there in the edit portion, I have two style bodies on the truck. It's something that I kind of did for fun. The F150 body that you see is actually for a rustler. I've linked the part number down below if it's something that you want to mess with yourself. This body doesn't really fit directly. You can see here that I had to cut out some little holes to make clearance for the front shock tower, and then I also had to do the same thing in the rear of the truck. It still doesn't fit exactly perfect in my opinion, but it's close enough that it sits relatively where it should, and it went around the track just fine. Actually, here's a clip of the truck running around at Mills Pond. This was for one of the Super Cup Series races, and I actually ended up doing fairly well with it. I'll play through some of the main here and come back in just a second. So that was pretty cool. I had the truck with the right tire combo on there, and I just drove it fairly conservatively and was able to take the win down there in the 13.5 stadium truck class. Fast forward to King of Stock up at New Red's Hobbies, like I was saying, that indoor high bite dirt track. And we switched the tires over to an octagon style tire, and then I lowered the ride height a little bit, and I left everything else exactly the same. One of the downsides you could say that stadium trucks have in comparison to two-wheel drive buggies is that because the tires are so much larger and most of the steering linkages and pieces are exactly the same as a two-wheel drive buggy, they can become kind of like a weak link. So in one of the AAA mains, the first main at King of Stock, the actual steering link, it just separated because I clipped a pipe and there was so much grip and the tire's big and heavy, that it just pulled it right apart, and then I had a DNF in that particular run. But put new pieces back together, went back out, and I grabbed the win in A2 and A3 and became the King of Stock for the stadium truck class here at New Red's Hobbies.
And there we go. Start draw. Now Ryan and Kevin and Paul and Vinny. You'll have the corners, Scott and Carson. Good job. Ryan. Thank you. Now on the 2 spot, and we're going to fall back into the 3.
The truck was so much fun to drive. I just went out there, didn't think about setup at all, and I just had fun. Threw some whips every once in a while when I felt like just having some fun, and was able to put my head down and just really put in some good laps with the truck. So as far as upgrades go, there are a few things on the truck that I've done with it so far. I have starting on the internal portion of the truck, I do have the MIP puck system installed. I do run it in the stock classes, so I figured that I would do what I do with my two-wheel drive buggy and just put it in my truck since it's available. Saving a little bit of that rotational mass. If you didn't know, the MIP puck system, the outdrives, and the diff itself are significantly lighter than the stock steel components. Removing some of the other steel components in the truck would be the Shell titanium screw kit. Always love these. I have them in all of my associated vehicles. I love them because A, they reduce weight, and B, they look a lot nicer and they feel nicer when you're working on them because the height of the head is a little bit bigger, so there's a little bit more material for you to grab onto, so it just makes it a breeze to work on the truck. Let's see, I think the titanium stuff continues on to the standoffs. I got the J Concepts fin standoffs, front and rear. Now, when I got this truck, the J Concepts fin turnbuckles were not yet available. So I actually put on the Lunsford turnbuckles, which have been great, and they're a little bit thicker than the stock ones, obviously lighter because they're titanium, and they've been working great so far. If I was to build the truck now, I would of course get the J Concepts fin turnbuckles. The Kashima shock bodies, like always, that I will always say is probably more of an aesthetic than it is a functional performance advantage. But again, love the look of those shocks, and I have them on all of my associated vehicles. As far as electronics go, I will be running for the rest of the year the X Factor motors. If it's in the 17.5 class, obviously the 17.5. If it's in the 13.5, obviously the 13.5. The ESC that's in the truck is going to be the Hobbywing Pro Stock ESC. A little bit smaller, a little bit lighter weight. Definitely gets the job done, and it will be in there until it needs to be taken out for something else. Steering servo is going to be the BK servo, like I have been running in all of my vehicles this year. Love this thing, keeps the truck moving on straight and gives it plenty of steering with those big old chunky tires. Now I do have the carbon fiber ESC plate in there, and I don't have anything under the steering servo because typically speaking the truck already has plenty of steering. I don't think that I would add more weight under the servo in most circumstances. Like I was saying before, I usually get that through either stiff sway bar, soft sway bar, or no sway bar are usually the adjustments that I go when looking for more or less steering. Can't forget about the Trinity white carbon battery. That thing, 2S, 4000 milliamp. I've been running those things for a long time. Always a great performer. They are in all of my 10 scale vehicles. And then when the truck is in its indoor racing mode or high bite mode, it has the J Concepts F2 body on there. I really like this body. I know when it first came out, everybody was kind of like, I don't know. And I was the same. But then when I saw it in person, I just thought it was a great design, and I was super excited to put it on there, and I really like the way that it handles. Then of course when I'm on those high bite indoor tracks, my two tires of choice are going to either be the brand new Ellipse Stadium truck tires in the gold compound or the Octagons. Depending on the level of bite, those are going to be my two choices for indoor tires with this truck. When it comes to the outdoor racing scene, I will be using the double Ds with either the carvers up front or just double Ds all the way around. Depending on the conditions of the track, how loamy, loose it is, etc., those are going to be my tires in my box for that condition. So that's going to be it. That's everything that's in my T6.1, and I've been really happy with this truck. I was kind of bummed when I got back into RC a couple years ago that the stadium truck class kind of really wasn't a thing like it was a long time ago. Back then it was pretty much you would run the two classes were your two-wheel drive buggy and your stadium truck, and four-wheel drive was a little bit more uncommon. But times have changed, and I'm kind of glad to see the truck classes kind of reviving themselves, because I think it's going to do the newcomers of the hobby a big favor. They're a little bit easier to drive and they're going to be a little bit more fun. And I think that's going to help them stick around and get further invested into the hobby. I'd love to hear what you guys have to say. Everyone has their own favorite class. Mine is sometimes when I drive my stadium truck, it might be my favorite class. It always changes though. You know, one that does bad and then you don't like it and then you do good in another one. Anyways, love to hear your thoughts. If you guys have any more questions or comments about any of the stuff I covered, drop them down below. All the components that I've named and listed out, you can find them down in the description below as well if you haven't already checked those out. If you find yourself down here in Central or South Florida, I'd love to see you guys out at the track. It's always fun to meet you guys in person. Put a, face to a name or a face to a picture of a car. Anyways, I'll catch you guys in the next one.